Yo, yo, yo. Another guitar lesson here. We've got a question from Dean York. What's up, Dean? Glad you made a little comment there, and a great question. Something I was actually thinking about while I was teaching that last lesson, and some often when I'm teaching lessons that are basically just very theory and very kind of heady, which is, we're talking about the nuts and bolts of music. So we're talking about the scales, the triads, the arpeggios, all that, what goes into the music. But how do we actually turn it into something musical? So this is where I have this kind of philosophy that I use with my students, which is playground and classroom. So in the classroom, a lot of the stuff on YouTube, and it's kind of just lends itself more to classroom stuff because I'm not actually working one on one with you or with anyone in particular. So it's hard to actually play around and bounce off ideas with each other. So this is more classroom stuff, but I'm going to do the best I can to kind of get you into that playground mindset, which is to just basically, well, first of all, you're what are we doing when we're playing? What do you see in the best guitar players when they're playing improvising guitar solos? When they're using the scales, they're using the triads. What they're really doing is they're expressing themselves. They're expressing some sort of emotion or some sort of idea that is ruminating in their head or in their soul that they're just getting out into the world. And so I'm going to bring up step one, and this is one that's really tricky. But one thing you need is confidence. And confidence, that might be hard to hear for some of you, but confidence, because you might not have much confidence, because if you're starting out and you're just trying to figure it out, or you've been playing for a while, but you haven't really developed like you want to, confidence is probably kind of eluding you in some ways. And so confidence, basically for me, confidence comes with experience and practice and time. So the more I play something, the more, in other words, the more I play this scale and end on that three there, the more confidence I have in that note that it's going to give me a certain feeling, a certain emotion, and I'm going to be cool with that, right? If I'm just starting out and I'm thinking, oh, is that the three? Is that the two? I don't really know. I'll play it and find out. Confidence isn't really going to be there. It's going to be more kind of elusive. So let's just put that on the side here. Confidence is one thing that's going to help you become musical, but not the only thing by any stretch of the imagination. Also, just recognize that music is a language, so we're actually speaking with the guitar. When you're playing scales, it's almost like you're, how would I use the analogy for language? Well, it's like you're in the classroom and you're studying English. You're reading, maybe you're reading at a first grade level, and you're reading slow and you're sounding out the words. So it doesn't sound like you're fluent in the language. You're still doing it, but you're not actually sounding musical. Just like when you're first learning how to read and to speak and to talk, you're not sounding necessarily fluent. So what we want to do is we want to think of it like a language. So one way to start doing it is if you say something. So that's what that was. I just said if you say something. If you say something, or if you think of anything to say, right? Or if you think of anything to say, your voice has a natural cadence to it, a natural phrasing, a natural rhythm. Yeah. So I'm just kind of repeating what I'm saying on the instrument. Now the notes aren't the notes don't really matter as much as you think they do. What I was doing that really made that musical was the rhythm and the, like I said, the cadence of what I'm saying. So you can start with just something simple. Just say any kind of sentence that comes to mind, or maybe even the last thought you had, or the last conversation you had with a friend, and just take some lines you had from it, or just grab a book or something and read, or just grab your phone and read a headline and just see how you speak it out. So like how I talk about something. I mean, that's this is a cool way to do it. Yeah, for sure. So that's one approach. Okay, when you literally just, because now it's musical, because now you're expressing yourself when you're talking to someone in a conversation and you're feeling someone you feel comfortable with, and you're expressing something, you're not thinking about the rhythm in which the words are coming out of your mouth, or the cadence or the phrasing in which the words are coming out of your mouth, right? They're just coming out of your mouth. And that's kind of how it is when you're improvising, when you start to get to a higher level. That's why this is a really good question, because it's hard for a lot of people to answer this question that already know how to do it, because it just becomes so natural, just like speaking is so natural. So I can play very melodically naturally, just like I can have a conversation with someone naturally. In other words, I'm not taught, like if I sounded like I was practicing English, I might sound like this. I am learning how to speak English, right? That's kind of what you probably sound like, or some of you sound like, when you're trying to improvise. You're playing it just sounds like a scale or a lick or some kind of thing that you've learned that you're kind of regurgitating. So practice just you every syllable in a sentence. Just use a note, and you could even just do it with one note, right? So like I might want to say, right? So I might want to say, I didn't even finish the sentence. I didn't even finish the sentence. So this is kind of a cool way to go about it. And again, that's once you start adding the notes, the more familiar you are with the scale and the arpeggios, now you can bring those to life. Another way to do it is to literally just get a metronome and play. This is kind of a more intellectual way to do it, but it works. And I've done this with some students before. Is to, let's get my metronome out here. So I'm going to play quarter notes. And then every once in a while, just hold one. And just move around. Don't think about too much about where you're going. And of course, you can change the rhythms too. You know, you could half notes, quarter notes. This is, this kind of way you start to sound like it's kind of old timey melodies, and you start to hear like legit melodies coming out, like, oh, this isn't really that complicated. Usually we're overthinking things. And so also, less is more. That's a good way to look at it too. Okay, so we've got just kind of mimicking your voice and how you talk is one way to get good phrasing. We've got the metronome with quarter notes, and then just pausing every once in a while, holding one. Also, I would say listening is probably just the top dog. When I'm the most musical when I'm playing, I'm listening. And there seems to be different levels of listening. Like, what are you listening to? Like, if I'm going to play something melodic, but I'm improvising it, truly improvising it, I'm going to play a note and I'm going to listen to that note, and that note is going to suggest the next note. And until I play the next note, it's going to suggest the next note. So if I say something like, let's say, we're just doing this example in A still here. So maybe I say something like, oops. Okay, so that was all right. It was okay, but I was really focused on listening. Like, there was times where I kind of got a little distracted, but for the most part, listen. And you know, a good thing to do as well is really important. And I think this is probably something that people don't quite do, especially when you're at a certain level, intermediate. You're playing mostly just kind of at home, just for enjoyment. You're probably, maybe you are, but probably not listening to yourself. You're probably not recording yourself very often. So recording yourself can really help it as well. You might be surprised that you sound a little more musical in certain times than you realize. Other times you might think you sound musical and you don't. So recording yourself is really important. And then what else? Oh yeah, something that I see a lot of. This we'll just cap it off with this one. Is judgment. So there's an inner critic, and this is something that everyone deals with. And I've noticed that a lot of students come to me and they'll say they're stuck and they don't sound good and they play boring lines, things like that. And so I'll be like, okay, well let's play a little bit, and we'll jam a little bit. And sounds pretty good what they're doing. I always tell them, like, hey man, that sounds pretty good to me. So their judgments are a little misguided. It's not that they don't sound good. It's just that they're playing the same things over and over again, typically. Also, sometimes they just don't, like I said, it comes back full circle, confidence, right? If you're constantly judging what you're playing, you're not ever going to really develop the confidence that you need to just say, hey, that was good. That was pretty good. Because like I'll have students that'll play something and they'll be like, oh, that was terrible, or that wasn't any good. And then I'll race to play exactly what they played, and I'll play it back to them. And I'll be like, no, that was cool. And then they'll kind of be like, oh, well, when you played, it's cool. And I'm like, partly they're hearing all the technique I've developed over the years, and the confidence and the know-how, and the maybe a little vibrato or whatever. So try to calm down the inner critic. If you find that something you're doing, you're saying, I don't like this, whatever it is you're doing, start recording it, and then just record it, even if it's just on your phone, just kind of a whatever, and then go do something else for a while. Maybe the next day pull it up and just casually listen to you jamming over a backing track, or you playing with a loop, and just see if it sounds good. See what you think about it. Don't try to overanalyze it. Just, is this musical? it might not be the best thing you've ever heard. I mean, you got to be, reasonable. but yeah. Anyway, there's a lot in that question, so it kind of sparks a lot of ideas in my brain. So, kind of a long video here, but for my videos anyway. Anyway, I hope you're doing well, Dean. Hope everybody's doing well. Appreciate you guys watching the channel. If any of this resonates or makes sense with you, hit me up with a little comment or a question. And if you want to take any one-on-one lessons, I still have openings, and that is really when a lot of this kind of these deeper questions can be answered a little more appropriately. I can encourage you to play a certain way when I'm watching you play and that kind of thing. So anyway, peace.